Here at Make It Fab, we are all about doing things and enjoying sewing, not making things complicated and making things as easy as possible. So this is our guide to making a low waist, easy costume for World Book Day. So I was delighted to see that Louie Stowell's book, Loki series, is going to be one of the featured World Book Day books. It's a brilliant book, really funny, but also a really super simple costume to do. As I have to confess, this is probably about the 5th time I've gone to record this, and every time I've made a little mistake and I've got annoyed with myself. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to show you how I would do this. It's not going to be perfect, I'm going to make mistakes, but this is a true reflection of what it's like to make a World Book Day costume. So what I've got is a red t-shirt, and this is going to, how I'm going to do this is that we're going to be able to use this t-shirt again after World Book Day. How many costumes are made on World Book Day and they go into the cupboard and they're never looked at again? This will be, you'll be able to unpick all this and then use this in the summer just for clothes for your kid. I've also got an old jumper. So this is about 3 sizes too small for my son. And I'm going to use this as the L on the front of the t-shirt. It's yellow rather than white, but you know what? It's World Book Day, it doesn't need to be perfect. And this is low waist, this is never, it's got stains on it at the front, so this was never going to be able to be resold into a shop. So this is proper fabric, textile waist. So I'm going to use this instead. So what you can do, so what you'll need for this is a good pair of scissors, sewing needles, thread, and something to hold your L in place whilst you sew. So I've got double-sided quilting tape. You can use temporary fabric glue. You can use even use Pritt stick. Something that will wash off basically after you've done it. So I've got my t-shirt. I'm going to sort of estimate how big my L needs to be. So want it like bold in the middle. So I'm going to estimate that my t-shirt, my L needs to be, let's say 25 centimeters across by about 25 by 25 centimeters. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to draw it onto the jumper beforehand rather than cutting it freehand. So just a really simple L shape out of this jumper. Let's have about 7 centimeters thickness in our L shape. And let's see how this looks. Because you've done this in pencil, if you do this and you go, actually that's a bit too long. So I've done this and it's like, actually this bit's a bit too long, that's okay. I can just cut that there. Okay. So using a good sharp pair of scissors, you're going to go into your fabric and just cut out a really simple L shape. So you don't need proper fabric scissors for this. You can use kitchen scissors. It's just that fabric scissors will be sharper, but don't worry about running out and getting a pair of fabric scissors. Your kitchen scissors will do. So the reason why I'm doing this in a sweatshirt material is that a sweatshirt material won't fray. So then you don't need to worry about the edges and the corners of your fabric. But you can do it in If you have old t-shirt, if you have an old vest, anything like that, that will work just as well. So this is where we're going to place our L. I'm going to take my quilter's tape. Going to place it on the back of the fabric. And this is just to hold it in place whilst you stitch. You can use, certainly you can use fabric glue, and just bear in mind if you use fabric glue and if you want to go for a no-sew outfit, you can use fabric glue, but just bear in mind that that means that this t-shirt is probably not going to be particularly wearable again unless they're really into Loki and always want to have an L in the front of their top. But for this, we're going to sew this on so we can change this back to a wearable t-shirt. So there we go. There is my L in the middle of the t-shirt. So we are now going to sew on. I'm just going to rescue my thread that rolled away. We're now going to sew on our L. So threading your thread. If you're not used to sewing, if this is like kind of, sewing is not something that you do on a regular basis, I'll just show you like some simple ways of making it a little bit easier. So you're going to thread your needle, and at this point I'm slightly regretting using a yellow thread because it's quite tricky to see, but there we go. And this is actually simple enough that you can do this with your child. This is quite a good little sort of sewing practice for them. So I've doubled this over and I'm going to tie it at the end. And the reason why I'm doing this is basically it just makes it a little bit easier. It makes it so your thread doesn't come off, come out of your needle, which can be incredibly frustrating. So we are going to go in through the back, and we're going to come out roughly where by the edge of your fabric, and we're going to go back in again in little right angles to the edge of the fabric. Going to do a little stitch. If you turn your work over, and at this stage, so you don't lose your work, you can tie a little knot here. And that little knot will just hold your work in place whilst you so. And then this is just a case of going all the way around it, travelling down the length and going parallel to it. So if you keep going parallel to it and travelling down behind, this just makes a neater stitch. So I'm just going to pause now because I'm sure watching me do this all the way around this L is going to be incredibly dull for you all. So I'm just going to pause now, do a bit of camera magic, and if by magic, there you have it. One World Book Day costume, Loki costume. Now this is not going to win any prizes for the most innovative t-shirt costume, but it's low cost, it's low effort, and you can reuse this t-shirt again, and you can also get your kids involved, which is the thing about World Book Day, getting your kids involved in enjoying books. And if you haven't read it yet, go out and get yourself a copy of Loki, because it is excellent. If you want a little bit more information on how to do this stitch, I will add a comment with a link to the badge making video that I've done. And if you stay tuned, this is the basic costume, but next week I'm going to be using the rest of the fabric to make, amazingly enough, a whoopee cushion, which is not something I ever thought I would say in a video. But until then, thanks for joining me.